Another dicot family here. This is called Rubiaceae. This is a rather diverse family, as we'll see, and it's got woody members and also herbaceous members. And it stands out from a lot of families we've seen. It's not so common to have plants with opposite leaves, especially woody plants. And so here we've got a woody plant with opposite leaves. And a feature that helps to kind of seal this in, if you've got, whoopsies, if you've got one of these woody plants in Rubiaceae, it has a feature called interpetiolar stipules, which is kind of a mouthful. What it means, if you get one of these plants with opposite leaves, the leaves come across from each other to be opposite, and then they have these stipules that are kind of joined together between the two leaves. So this is sort of a position you'd expect to have stipules, and in this family, they can be kind of joined together into this structure that's shared between the opposite leaves. So that's what's shown on this image here. A little bit wilted away, but if you see one of those and you think you've got Rubiaceae, you might actually have Rubiaceae. So this also, if you know that feature as a feature of this family, you might also know to expect opposite leaves. So opposite or whorled, as we'll see. The inflorescence is cymose. We've seen cymes before. Here's a nice example. This is one where the oldest flower is here, and you can see the after that flower, the next growth continued in two directions. So also kind of highlighting this opposite nature within the inflorescence. So cyme, oldest flower is terminal, and then growth continued in the inflorescence from two sides. This is a bedstraw, genus Gallium. Inferior ovary, also not as common, I'd say. A little hard to tell in here, but if you've got a flower with a bigger part below where the petals attach, you might be looking at inferior ovary. This is the coffee genus, and one that we have locally here. This is partridge berry Michella. A little diversity in the fruits. Capsules, berries, or drupes. There's the partridge berry, the berry of the partridge berry. Here we've got a capsule, I suppose. I'd have to change my definitions on this one. This one I think might function more of a schizocarp. Then we've got coffee here. So coffee berries have coffee seeds inside, which are what we use for coffee. Locally, quite a few different species. The button bush is our shrubby Rubiaceae plant. We've got also lots of herbaceous plants. This is, we saw bedstraw, partridge berry. Here's Houstonia, the bluets. Kind of a distinctive flower. Maybe a little more common having these 4 petals as well. So 4 petals in this Gallium, 4 petals in our Houstonia here. And then lots of diversity in heading more toward the tropics. So quinine, gardenia is a nice smelling ornamental plant you can get. Quinine, a little history lesson about this one. This is a plant that you can take as a drug to ward off malaria. So malaria is a parasite, a blood parasite, and quinine was made something that was presented to Europeans as they were discovering new parts of the world for themselves. They connected this from traditional medicine and found that it had an effect on malaria. Became an important ingredient. Quinine became an ingredient in tonic water. And the story goes that tonic water was rather unpleasant to taste. It's kind of bitter. And so why not make it into a cocktail? This became the origin of gin and tonic. So kind of a herbal remedy mixed with alcohol that people could get behind. And a little tidbit about quinine is that it's fluorescent in the ultraviolet spectrum. So if you shine UV light on it, if you're in a black light scenario, you might get a glowing gin and tonic. Another one, ipecac. This is a plant that makes you throw up. It's sometimes given as a remedy if you've eaten something and need to throw up. It's a pretty severe effect, unfortunately. Coffee, just a little highlight of the start to finish process of coffee. We've got flowers develop into fruits. Inside of the fruits are the beans So you take the fleshy part away and you're left with these kind of silvery seeds. They're flat on one side because you get 2 per berry. And that flat part is where the 2 seeds pressed against each other. And then the coffee roasting process takes this and burns it a little bit, gets you that roasted coffee flavor. And all throughout is a lot of the caffeine that people are interested in. Nice highlight here of the inferior ovary. So you can see the scars of where all those flower parts were attached on the far end of the fruits. That's a good characteristic of an inferior ovary fruit. Coffee, if you're interested, is native to Eastern Africa. And from there, it's really taken over the world. And this is highlighting different parts of the world where people grow coffee today. So you're probably familiar with Colombian coffee and Sumatran coffee and all kinds of the parts of the world you can get coffee from. This is where the plants are grown today, but they're native just to a little bit of Eastern Africa. And then this is a phylogeny showing that the plants that people use, the ones we're interested in getting our coffee from, they've got a much higher abundance of caffeine. So it's a little bit of the coffee genus. Not all of it is very high in caffeine, but the ones people use for coffee are higher in caffeine.